Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on the View from the Crowd YouTube channel, and today we are going to be previewing the Turkish Grand Prix. I have been waiting for this race since it was announced. I love the Istanbul Park. It is one of my favourite tracks that has got removed from the calendar. That and Malaysia, the two tracks that I would have absolutely loved to have on the calendar this year. But if I can't have one, I'll more than happily take the other. And we're back at Istanbul Park. This race has the potential to be absolutely brilliant. But of course, with it being F1 and the current stage of the cars, that is never a guarantee. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a good enough race to show that to show the FIA that this track needs to be on the calendar for the foreseeable future. Of course, between Imola 2 weeks ago and Turkey this week, there's a lot of F1 news that's been going on, a lot of stuff, and not a lot of it that I want to talk about right now. So you can go over to the Grid Talk podcast and listen to the preview that we did earlier in this week. It was really good. We talk about a lot of the news and sort of a lot of the current events in Formula 1 going into this weekend, as well as, of course, previewing. So if you want to listen to that, it was Ruby Price doing the hosting for that weekend, but I was an esteemed guest. And I think it's really good. So make sure to go check it out. Make sure while you're there to follow them on Spotify or any sort of podcasting formats that you usually listen to, because it's really good. And in this weekend we'll be doing qualifying reviews and race reviews also, so make sure to check those out. But without further ado, let's just jump into this weekend, and we will start with Mercedes. Now, Istanbul Park is very sort of similar in a way to Imola. It has its high speed, it has its low speed, but it's wider. It's like if you mix Portimao and Imola together. It's got the high speed nature of Imola with the wideness and the potential for overtaking that Portimao has. This could suit Mercedes absolutely down to the ground. You know, they were looking incredibly fast in Imola. Didn't seem like the Red Bull was really anywhere near them. They, of course, had the issues with Bottas, and of course Hamilton got a bit of a slow start, but otherwise they were very much the team to beat. And they had amazing pace, but it's looking like it's probably going to be a repeat of that. Lewis Hamilton is going into this weekend knowing that if he gets on the top step of the podium, that will be enough for him to win his 7th world title. So he'll definitely be going for it, and it would not surprise me if he walks away from this weekend victorious. Now to Red Bull, there's a bit of a horror show in Imola. They had Max Verstappen's tyre blowout, even though he was cruising to second place, and then Alex Albon spun it on the restart, which was definitely not ideal for him and his Formula 1 career. But with the sort of the more amount of overtaking opportunities there are in Istanbul, I think Red Bull could actually like this track a lot more than they did in Imola. Verstappen spent most of his race either fending off a Mercedes or stuck behind one. So it just needs that sort of Portimao-esque layout to be able to overtake, to be able to maybe mount a challenge a little bit more than he was able to in Imola. And I think he could be right as rain. It's important that he's close in qualifying. I think if he's close to them in qualifying, then I think we know that we're probably going to be in for a good race. Otherwise, if the Mercedes are absolutely romping it, then expect probably another Mercedes 1-2. As for Alex Albon, this is another race that he just needs to prove that he is good enough to stay in Formula 1, because his F1 career is absolutely hanging by a thread right now. He is looking like he's on his way out. It's going to be either Hulkenberg or Perez taking that seat, unless he can do something. If he wins this race, I don't think that's even going to be enough to save his Red Bull career. I'm being completely honest. If he wins this race and laps the entire field, then maybe he might have a chance. But he just needs to do something. Be within 1-2 tenths of max in qualifying. Stay there. Stay in 4th. be in that battle. So instead of Red Bull having to use these weird alternate strategies to get Alex up into the the fifth, fourth place, how about we actually have Alex genuinely in fifth or fourth place and helping Max by doing something with the strategy to allow Max to fight for the win, or even fight for the win himself, because at the moment he is going to be dumped out this sport, and I don't think we'll ever see him back in again. Now on to third place Renault. Yeah, third place. They were in fifth before the last weekend, but now they're in third because of this amazingly tight battle that we have for third in the Constructors' Championship. And you know what? I'm just going to talk about all three teams because they're so close and they're so intertwined right now that it's impossible to separate the three teams. So, Renault in third. They had a podium last weekend, looking very good. Imola was a track that we didn't think they were going to do well at, but who cares? They got third place. Racing Point had a very poor qualifying in Imola. Sergio Perez in 11th. Lance Stroll in 15th. I know that was mainly due to track limits, and fingers crossed we won't have any more stupid track limits this weekend. That got really boring and really tedious in Imola, but they need to up that. We're used to seeing Sergio Perez whip out amazing qualifying pace, putting it in fifth, fourth place, where that Racing Point needs to be. Lance Stroll, that early season amazing run of form that he was having, is dying off and slowly creeping down the order, which is not what Racing Point want to see. They need to have both drivers working as hard as they can to get that third place in the Constructors, because that is going to mean a heap load of money going into next season. With Renault, the same goes for that. Daniel Ricciardo absolutely on form right now, doing amazing things. But Esteban Ocon, yes, he had a retirement in Imola, but his form over this season has not been good enough to keep up with Daniel. Daniel is dragging that team through the mud and getting the results and doing a brilliant job. Esteban needs to fix up, needs to come away with a good result this weekend, and needs to prove that he can, stay in Formula 1 for the long term. Because that thing that we saw with him before he left for a year, it's going, it's fading, and he just needs something to pick himself up again. And then McLaren are going through this weird sort of phase at the moment where they're trying to change their aero. They didn't get it to work, so they're going back and they're changing this and they're changing that, and they're a bit all over the place at the moment. But they're still getting results, and that is the most important thing. That's what's keeping them in this battle. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz are keeping their nose clean in races, doing what they need to do, and getting the results they need. And that is what Turkey's going to be about again. If they don't have the car which is going to be challenging for that fifth, fourth place position, then they're going to need a car that is going to get them consistent, solid points, get ahead of at least one of the Renaults, get ahead of at least one of the Racing Point, and stay there, because that is the only way that they're going to be able to claw a third place, fourth place in this Constructors' Championship. Now on to Ferrari, and the car is getting better. We've seen that it's getting better, it's getting there slowly but surely, but of course it's still not quite enough to be challenging, third, that sort of, with those three teams fighting for third in the Constructors' Championship. But they're doing their own thing at the moment, and that's good. That's better than what we've seen from Ferrari previously, but it just needs to continue. Imola wasn't the best race for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, pretty bang average. Vettel having issues, as always. But it wasn't a disaster. It wasn't a complete utter calamity that we've seen from Ferrari previously. So, it's a bit of good news. And maybe Turkey might suit their car a little better than Imola did, but of course we won't really know. We don't really have any data from last year or anything. And even if we did have any data from last year, it would all be pointless because we all know that Ferrari cheated basically last year. But it's being interesting to see what they can do. Charles Leclerc, again, I think he can probably get into the top 10 in qualifying. Sebastian Vettel, probably won't. So it'll just be a matter of just getting as many points as possible for Ferrari this weekend, even if it is just one or two. On to AlphaTauri. Oh, it could have been so much better. It could have been so much better. I mean, I'm not slating Daniel Kvyat for what he did. Amazing. That restart, incredible. But just, Pierre Gasly was so quick. Kvyat was also quick, but Pierre Gasly was on fire. And then to have that issue and which forced him to retire so early on was heartbreaking. But, as I've already mentioned, the characteristics between Imola and Turkey is very similar. So, the amazing pace that we saw from AlphaTauri and Imola, we could see again in Turkey, and wouldn't that be brilliant? I've loved the fact that AlphaTauri have been able to, fight with this midfield. It just makes everything a bit more interesting. We're so used to this Mercedes Red Bull just sort of taking the podiums. It's just what is going on behind is where the real racing is in Formula 1 at the moment. Is it going to be Racing Point? Is it going to be Renault? Is it going to be McLaren? Is it going to be AlphaTauri? Or even potentially Ferrari? Charles Leclerc did a great job in Portimao. So it's fingers crossed that AlphaTauri can show that they had the same pace that they did in Imola. They can replicate that, and they can go again even after a bit of a a bad moment with Pierre Gasly. But hopefully both drivers will be giving it their all, because they know that they can catch Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and wouldn't that be an absolute turn for the books? Now on to the Ferrari calamity customer teams of Haas and Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo, of course, have got two drivers now that are secure in their seats, and they're not really going to have to be worried too much about their performances for the rest of the season. They can pretty much take their foot off the pedal, but they'll still be wanting to score the constructors' point here and there, just to consolidate what they already have and that sort of gap that they have to Haas and Williams in the Constructors' Championship. But for Haas, they've got two drivers who are unmotivated, everything. Haas are in such a horrendous place at the moment. They've got two drivers that know that they're not going to be in Formula 1 next season. They've got nothing really to drive for. They've got a car which is absolutely horrendous, with an engine which is also horrendous, and just a team that just seems to be in complete disarray. We don't even know if Gene Haas is going to be staying in the sport, or whether he's going to sell it over to Nikita Mazepin's dad. We still don't even know what's going to be going on with the lineup with Ferrari with Haas next season. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Nikita Mazepin? Is it going to be potentially Nico Hulkenberg or Sergio Perez? Is it going to be Mick Schumacher? Is it going to be Callum Ilott? Is it going to be any of these drivers? It's just absolutely impossible to tell at the moment, but while they're racing somewhere new, I don't think the results are going to be anything new at all. I think we're going to see the same old Haas probably going out in Q1, or if not, they'll be the bottom end of Q2. Get really nowhere in the race because they don't have the race pace to keep up with either Ferrari or AlphaTauri. They'll be fighting their races with the Alfa Romeos and the Williams. Things have just gone from hero to zero for Haas, and they got fourth in the Constructors' Championship like 2 seasons ago. How? How? It's impossible to fathom, considering the absolute mess that team is in right now. Whether it's Gunter, does Gunter need to go? Does that team just need a whole new shift? It's hard to say, but no, it's going to be probably another calamity at Turkey. At least for Alfa Romeo, when Giovinazzi qualifies badly, he can make up positions. He made up an astonishing amount of positions at Imola, considering how tight and narrow that track is. Didn't stop him and Kimi Räikkönen in Portimao absolutely whizzed through the field. It's at least they've got something to grasp onto, but I do feel for Haas. I do, because their car is awful. The drivers are pretty awful. They've just been left in this really shitty mess. Finally on to Williams. Things are getting better. They're getting better. They're getting just... It was heartbreaking for George not to get his first point, because he could have done it. I think he really could have done it. You know, he's such a talented driver. And even though the cars behind him were all on the soft tyres and he was on the hard tyres, I think he could have done it. But just had to spin his wheels a little too much, didn't he? Just a little too much and been into the wall. Such a shame. But hey ho, life goes on. He showed pace in Imola. I think he can show pace again here in Turkey. I think he's going to do another cracking job in qualifying, because that's what he does. George Russell on a Saturday is absolutely untouchable. And, you know, he was only 0.3 of a second off Q3 in Imola. And that's impressive. That is really, really impressive. Whether he can do the same in Turkey is unknown, but I definitely think Q2, a solid Q2, is definitely on the cards for George Russell. And as for Nicholas Latifi, let's just see if he can get off the back row, to be honest. So that's all from me, and that is my preview for the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix. I cannot wait. I'm sure loads of you cannot wait. It's been a track that has been deeply missed off the F1 calendar since after it was taken off after the 2011 season, and it's great to see it back. It's super o'clock in the morning though, so after getting used to these European races all being at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning for this race, so fun times, but hey ho. I wouldn't miss this race for the world. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe down below. If you're not following my blog already, I've been putting out content on there fairly regularly at the moment, so if you're not already following that, the link for that will also be down in the description. I'll also leave the link to the Grid Talk podcast preview down in the description below as well, so you can check that out. I think it's really good, and I think it's definitely worth checking out and subscribing to. So guys, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. My name's been